taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. Yo, it's game day, stadium packed, feel that rush. From Boise to App State, man, we never hush. Rocking the colors, yeah, we bleed that pride. Cinderella stories, watch our dreams collide. Late nights, bright lights, we grind every play. Underrated talent, we gon' make them say, who's that team when we come to town? Representing for the schools that wear the crown. We in the G5, high, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. Yo, it's game day, stadium packed, feel that rush. From Boise to App State, man, we never hush. Rocking the colors, yeah, we bleed that pride. Cinderella stories, watch our dreams collide. Late nights, bright lights, we grind every play. Underrated talent, we gon' make them say, who's that team when we come to town? Representing for the schools that wear the crown. We in the G5, high, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. We the ones they are. We the ones they can't skip. Fighting for respect, it's a tough road ahead. But we pack that heart and we never dread. Late hits and big plays, we bring in the heat. Watch out for the G5, we can't be beat. From the MAC to the Sun Belt, we don't back down. In this football jungle, we wear the crown. All the doubters sleeping, but we making noise. In the G5 Hive, we the realest boys. When the clock's ticking down, we the ones to believe. One play, one chance, we gon' make them achieve. From the sidelines to the end zone, hear that roar. In the G5 Hive, we always wanting more. We in the G5 Hive, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. So raise your flags high, let them wave in the air. In the G5 Hive, we the squad that's rare. With heart and grit, we rewriting the script. In the world of college football, we the ones they can't skip. Yeah.
Forward, gets out of a tackle, now turns on the Jets, up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5, Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
28-yard play, guess who? Body, up the middle, making another move, to the outside, 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it, nice move by Brown, he's got space, he's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown, a record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Roto, it does. Roto stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Roto.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live. We're excited to bring you G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I'm Luke, and I'm here with my co-host, Justice. That's 4 weeks in a row. I've got the finger pointing right, just in time for the end of the season. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, and a retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. If you need anything to help you with that rate and review, I am wearing a shirt that says, "Hey, hungry, I'm Dad." Father's Day gift for my kids. All right. The G5 Hive merchandise store is now live. Link is in the YouTube comments, as well as pinned on our X page in the bottom of the screen here. How's it going, Justice?
Good, man. How are you doing? I am, I don't know, I'm a little worn out. I've been baking cookies for the last 5 hours. I started at 5 o'clock. I literally finished at 10 o'clock.
Are you getting ready for Santa? Are you asking for a pretty big gift? Is that why?
No, I only asked for 2 gifts: a jacket and the college football video game. That's the only gifts I asked for. So, yeah. I bake cookies, give them as part of my gifts to my family members. So I don't know.
Gotcha.
I probably made 12, 13 dozen cookies.
That's in icing and sprinkles, or like, are they
No,
cookies?
no,
Like,
no.
what do we got here?
I make kitchen sink cookies. You ever had a Panera Bread kitchen sink cookie?
No.
It's pretty good. Next time you go to Panera, get one. But yeah, it's got chocolate chips. It's got pieces of toffee in it. It's got chunks of pretzel in it. It's got salt on the top. Yeah, it's some salt and some sweet. It's good stuff.
I have been busy with just everything that goes with having little kids. If you can, remember back to those days.
Well, it doesn't get better, Luke. I'm gonna tell you what, because I was gonna bake cookies last night, so I didn't have to do it today. And I bought all the ingredients, bought everything. Well, I don't know, like 3 o'clock, my daughter comes home and says, "Oh, my friends are coming over. We're baking cookies tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Well, number one, like, there goes my plan to bake cookies. Number two, like, I tell her, make sure you buy all your own ingredients, right?" So, well, she did, kind of, sort of. She bought ingredients to make like one batch of cookies. She made 4 batches of cookies. Because like the first one, they used a tablespoon instead of a teaspoon of all those ingredients. The second batch, they forgot to put sugar in it. And then they burn a batch. And like it was like, I don't know, man. It was like, yeah, it wasn't good. She used some of my ingredients, and she didn't say anything about it. So I started making mine, and then I'm like, well, crap, I don't have enough. I had to stop and go to the grocery store, buy more stuff, come back home. Fun times, man.
Yeah. We started doing that elf on a shelf thing.
Man, I don't miss those days, brother. I don't miss those days.
Like, there was something we hadn't done, and then like that was the thing my son like asked for Santa. It's elf on a shelf, and he's supposed to go away on Christmas, like Christmas Eve. Then he goes back because he's supposed to give you reports every night and all this stuff. And it's like, well, if we get him that for Christmas, like he's not gonna get him for another year. So right. Like once we heard that request, we got that. So we've been doing some of that, and I can't wait till I can wake up at like 4 a.m, tell my kids to go back to sleep, and maybe wake up at 5 and maybe take a nap at like 8 a.m. or something, because I've had a full day.
Yeah, fortunately for me, like elf on the shelf wasn't big for my kids. Like I think we only dealt with it for 2, maybe 3 years before they like the gig was up. So yeah. We didn't have to do it too long.
But I don't have to assemble anything. That's the big thing. I don't have to assemble a dollhouse. I don't have to assemble this. I don't have to assemble. So like that is probably what I'm most thankful for.
I would do all that way in advance. I will never forget the year my daughter got the Barbie Dream House. Thank God I did that in advance, because like it took me like, I don't know, I feel like it took me like 7-8 hours to put that thing together. There's no way I could have did that the night before.
Yeah.
It was like my daughter got the Barbie Dream House, and like my son got like this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle lair thing. Wasn't as bad as the Barbie Dream House, but still. When I'm gonna show my age a little bit, but when my sister was little, sister's younger than me, she got a Glamour Girls cruise ship, and my mom didn't get done putting, and my mom put it together the night of. Mom was a single parent, and I think my mom didn't get done till like 6 in the morning. And she told us that story, so I always remembered that. And so with my kids, if I had stuff to put together, it happened days before, and I got hidden somewhere.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, people probably don't want to hear about our Christmas stuff. We got football to talk about. So let's get into it. The G5 Hive Players of the Week 2024 bowl performances from this last week. Offensive Player of the Week for myself. I took Ohio wide receiver Coleman Owen. Find someone in your life that looks at you the way Parker Navarro looks at Coleman Owen. Coleman had 11 receptions for 140 yards in the Staff DNA Cure Bowl. You had this feeling that he was going to get every pass, and like they were just going to him early and often. He was always open, and as I mentioned earlier, he had 11 receptions. The Bobcats had 19 receptions as a team. That's 57.9% of the team's receptions. Now, a tweet put out there by Robert Keegan said that Coleman Owen broke the Ohio program record for receiving yards in a season. The previous record was held by Levon Brazil with 1,146 yards back in 2021 or 2011. Sorry. Coleman Owen ended the season with 1,216 yards receiving. Congratulations to Coleman on the game and going down in Ohio record books.
Well, I didn't stray too far with my Player of the Week quarterback Parker Navarro. Man, like he has just looked phenomenal. The last 2 times he's played, and in the MAC championship game, and once again the bowl game, he was just outstanding. He was 19 for 28 with 254 yards and a touchdown through the air, while adding 111 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing on the ground. Parker continued the magical run for the Bobcats and led them to a victory over Jacksonville State in the Staff DNA Cure Bowl. Congratulations, Parker and the Bobcats, on the bowl victory. My defensive player of the week is cornerback Jalen Jimerson from the Sam Houston Bearcats. Jalen turned in a strong performance this week, 10 tackles, 4 solos, 1 tackle for loss, 2 interceptions, including a 29-yard pick six to get the scoring started for the Bearcats and giving them a 7-0 lead in the first quarter. Jalen's performance was instrumental in leading the Bearcats to their first ever bowl victory as an FBS team, defeating Georgia Southern in the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Congrats to Jalen on the great performance and to all the Bearcats on their first bowl victory.
I went with UNLV safety Jet Elad. Jet had 11 total tackles on the night. 8 of those were solo. He also had a pass deflection and a huge fumble recovery. The fumble recovery occurred in the third quarter, and the game was close. UNLV had the 14-13 lead over Cal. UNLV had a sack fumble on a 3rd and 7 on Cal's 33-yard line. Jet was there for that fumble recovery. That change of possession resulted in a one-play, 23-yard touchdown run by Kylan James to put UNLV up 21-13. They would go on to win the Art of Sport LA Bowl over Cal by the final score of 24-13. So huge fumble recovery. Congratulations, Jet. All right. What are some news and notes? What does the Swarm need to know?
Don't have a lot this week because we're not really talking about portal stuff. There's been a lot of interesting portal things in terms of folks leaving and folks coming to the G5, but we will cover all that at a later time. So mostly just kind of coaching news. So the first piece of coaching news: Jacksonville State has named Charles Kelly as their next head coach. He was most recently the co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach at Auburn. Sam Houston has named Phil Longo as this next head coach for the Bearcats. He was a Bearcats OC from 2014 to 2016, and he's been the OC at North Carolina and Washington the last in between.
Wisconsin.
So I'm sorry, Wisconsin. I said Washington,
Yeah.
didn't I?
Yeah, no problem. We got it.
Yeah, North Carolina. He's the offensive coordinator at North Carolina and Wisconsin most recently. No surprise, Ohio interim head coach and offensive coordinator Brian Smith has officially been named as the next head coach of the Ohio Bobcats. Ohio had a magical run this year. Coach Smith was a big part of that. He led the team in the interim after Tim Albin left the day after they won the MAC championship, led them to a bowl victory. And they didn't have a single player enter the portal until after their bowl game. That in and of itself is pretty impressive. It just kind of shows, I think, the respect the players had for Coach Smith. Colorado State names Tyson Summers as this next defensive coordinator. He was formerly the defensive coordinator for Western Kentucky for the past 3 seasons. He was also a defensive coordinator at Colorado State previously in 2015 under then head coach Mike Bobo. And the final piece of coaching news, Luke Schleusner has been named the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for New Mexico. He follows head coach Jason Eck over from Idaho, where he served as their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. All right, this last piece of news is pretty big. It happened late last week, and then there were some more developments today. So I think we talked about this previously, but Vanderbilt quarterback who was at New Mexico State before that, and before that was at JUCO, he sued the NCAA, saying that his JUCO years and the age of NIL, because I guess JUCO players can't earn NIL earnings. I think that was the basis of it, but basically saying that JUCO years don't count. Well, that hearing happened last week, and Pavia won. The judge ruled in his favor, which meant Diego Pavia got another year of eligibility. At that time, the NCAA said, hey, we're going to appeal, but also this ruling only applies to Diego Pavia because he was the only one in that lawsuit. I don't know if we talked about it last week or not, but
I think we just brought it up.
My opinion of that was like, that's just insane, because all you're doing is encouraging. Basically, what you're saying is all the rest of you JUCO players need to come sue me, and that's just bad press. I don't know. Made zero sense to me why you would do that. But that was the stance last week. Well, today, I guess they finally wised up and said, yeah, anybody that's has JUCO years, you gain a year of eligibility, but we are appealing this decision. But it brings up a very interesting point. So now you got lots of guys that play junior college that have at least 1 year, possibly 2 years of eligibility remaining, depending on how many years they played JUCO. The interesting thing to me about this is I don't know how fast this appeal will work through the process, right? And so teams have to make decisions on personnel. And so I feel like and players are going to enroll in college, right? And so you're going to have these guys enroll in school in January, provided they haven't already graduated, and then you're going to, what's the NCAA going to do at that point? Like, are they going to say,
I feel at this point, from a college standpoint, not an NCAA, just like a team staffing, personnel wise, I don't know if you can take on anybody, because then they might become ineligible.
Well, that's my point. I'm wondering if the NCAA doesn't do that, because that's kind of crazy to pull the rug out in July or August.
Yeah, but also all right, if the player's already at the school, they just can't transfer. And hey, you wanted a year of eligibility, but then you have to stay at whatever school you are currently at.
Well, they wouldn't necessarily.
Because then they're already at the school, and all this stuff. But then, I'm trying to think. I think they went to like 103 scholarship or 103 roster spots.
105.
So like, I don't know. It's messy. It continues to get messy. I'm just not going to worry about it until something else comes out. Like, there's just.
I mean, to me, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I feel like on one hand, like the NCAA's at this point is going to, or at least unless they get this appeal heard, like in the next, I don't know, 3 weeks, then they're going to have to let these guys have eligibility. Because can you imagine all the bad press they're going to get? All these guys enroll in school, go through spring practices, and then come July, you tell them, too bad, so sad. Like that's going to cause a lot of issues and a lot of bad press for the NCAA. So I feel like at some point there's going to be a drop dead date where the NCAA is just going to let it happen.
Well, the other thing
of the appeal or not.
Like, I'm all about, like, if players want to play more, than, like, so be it. But, like, the whole basis of, in the NIL era, hey, you're like, I was in JUCO and I didn't get that money. Well, how about the people that weren't in JUCO and still didn't get that money? It's no different than I got hired back 10 years ago, and I got hired for X amount of dollars, and now the new bring-in price is this much. Well, it's like, when I want my raise, I want that much. Well, it's just like not how it always works. So
see, I think part of the argument is that JUCOs aren't governed by NCAA. They got their own governing body. So to me, and I don't know if the lawsuit covers this, but like, it's kind of like, to me, a guy goes to prep school, right? Like a Fork Union Military Academy. That doesn't count against his years of eligibility. And so, I mean, to me, that's part of the argument why JUCO doesn't count, but I don't know. It's just crazy, and it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see what the NCAA does with this appeal, because it could leave some players and possibly some teams high and dry come July or August, depending on how fast this appeal happens. Which makes me believe like they're just gonna let it happen.
It kind of feels like the ruling happened relatively fast, though.
It did. The ruling did happen fast. Much faster than I expected. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like, you could see like this appeal process taking a lot longer. I don't know.
Yeah, because
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Even if there's a appeal and gets overturned, then there'll be another appeal. Like, there'll be like all sorts of appeals. Like, it'll just keep going.
It'll be interesting to see like how the schools handle it, right? Like, I don't know, maybe they handle it from the perspective of, we'll have like maybe one or two of those guys, but that's it. That way they're not like left holding the bag with a half dozen or so players that could be gone. But there's some interesting names that would have it, like Rice running back Dean Connors. If he chose to have it, he'd have another year of eligibility. There's a lot of other players like Caden Robinson, App State, same thing. So it's gonna be interesting to kind of see what happens with this moving forward and how the teams themselves handle it. What's up, Brett? How you doing, man? Thanks. Glad to see you. Thanks as always for your support. We appreciate it. That's really gonna do it for news and notes. Like I said, we'll kind of get into the portal stuff starting probably sometime in January once the portal closes and we know where a lot of folks end up going.
All right. Well, let's just get into the nectar. Let's get into the good stuff. The Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl review. Memphis versus West Virginia. This happened last Tuesday. So game started with 2 West Virginia 3-and-outs. Memphis was able to score on their second possession. They followed that up with a fumble recovery on a nice hit by, I believe it was Greg Rubin. Memphis was able to turn that fumble into 3 points. Then West Virginia had a turnover on downs, and Memphis scores a touchdown on the very next play, a 46-yard touchdown run by Greg DeRoziers Jr. That seemed to open up this scoring portal for both teams. At that point, I think I went to go put my kids to bed because there was a little over 2 minutes to go in the half. And I come down and there were 17 points scored. I was like, what has just happened? West Virginia scores 17 points. And Memphis scores 10 with 17 of those total 27 points coming in that last 2 minutes and 46 seconds, like I mentioned. Memphis gets the ball to open the second half. They march down the field for a Mario Anderson touchdown run. Friend of the podcast, Mario Anderson. West Virginia would score a touchdown on all of their second half possessions, except their last one, which I'll get to soon. Memphis tries a long 50-yard field goal, which would have been Vandenberg's longest of the season. He had the leg, but missed it right. I didn't like the call. It just felt like the momentum you needed to just keep the ball in Hennigan's hands. He was in a groove. I would have liked them to kind of go for that kill shot. And I don't know, kicking the field goal when you're up 5, okay, let's go up 8. West Virginia, again, they missed the field goal. West Virginia had life. They moved the ball down the field to kind of go into this Memphis goes into this prevent defense, but it ended in a crazy last play, an interception and a fumble, but the fumble didn't happen due to the defender kind of going down to slide. And he wasn't down, but he was in the motion of going down when the ball comes out. Anyways, Memphis prevails 42-37.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't realize, they thought that only applied to quarterbacks. But the guy was giving himself up, so it applied to him as well. But yeah, it was a crazy game, man. Glad to see Memphis get the win against the Power Four. It's another G5 win against the Power Four. And we'll talk about it later, UNLV. But, the UNLV got another win as well, making it 2-0. And they were undefeated until what was it, Saturday night, I guess, Saturday. The G5 was against the P4, and that got ruined. And we'll get to that in a bit as well. But yeah, glad to see Memphis go out on top. Seth Hennigan, Rock Taylor, Mario Anderson all played really, really good. Garrett Green was phenomenal for West Virginia. But at the end of the day, Memphis got it done.
All right. Well, let's get to the Boca Raton Bowl. We had Western Kentucky Hilltoppers versus James Madison Dukes. This was Wednesday night. JMU started with the momentum in this one. Let me start over. JMU started with the momentum in this, and then at the end of the first to halftime, it felt like it was all Hilltoppers. Both teams started with 3 and outs. JMU got on the board first with the J.C. Evans 7-yard touchdown run. Then it was punt, turnover on downs, fumble, punt, before Western Kentucky got on the board and tied it up with a Veltkamp to Berry touchdown pass. Western Kentucky added another touchdown between 2 JMU missed field goals and led at the half 14-7. Western Kentucky looked to ride that first half momentum into the second, getting the kickoff, but they go 3 and out. Then we just had this momentum change. J.C. Evans started the drive before Billy Atkins would come in, and then Evans would cap off the drive with this fake keeper, then pullback pass. It wasn't like those Tim Tebow jump passes, but it was kind of go into the line, come back, pass it. Then WKU tried to get fancy and then fumbled on a lateral. JMU would only get 3 from it, but now their lead was 17-14. WKU would answer with a field goal of their own, but JMU proceeded to march down the field for a 9-play, 75-yard drive, ending in a touchdown. Dukes are up 24-17. 2 more 3 and outs by both teams. Western Kentucky needed to punch it in with what felt like was going to be their last drive. They get a huge 4th and 1 conversion. But the very next play, Veltkamp is strip sacked by Colorado transfer Kyrie Mans. JMU would tack on a field goal and end up winning 27-17. JMU wins their first bowl game since entering the FBS. JMU edge rushers Mans and O'Neal just seemed like the difference makers for me in this game. They just dictated everything, it felt like. And if they weren't making a tackle for loss, making a sack, they were collapsing the pocket. They were rushing Veltkamp. Those two seem to be different makers in that game.
The one thing I guess that kind of surprised me was like that. I don't know if like the Western Kentucky just realized defense didn't realize, or defense like what was happening with these quarterback situations. Because every time J.C. Evans was in, he was going to run the ball. He only attempted one pass and completed it for 1 yard. Like he was going to run the ball every time he was in. And then when Billy Atkins was in, he wasn't going to run the ball. He was going to, either hand the ball off or run it. And it just, I don't know, like they just never, especially with J.C. Evans, they never really seemed to adjust to the fact that, hey, this dude's going to run the ball. Like, it just kind of blew my mind, like that they just, I don't know, didn't tee off every time Evans comes in, like that you're not teeing off on J.C. Evans. Veltkamp was in the portal. Easton Messer was in the portal. You wonder like how much that affects things. We saw last year, right? The same thing with Veltkamp. He was in the portal and he came out and played phenomenal. So, don't really know that like there was, extra or they weren't as motivated or whatnot. But yeah, I agree with you that the JMU defense was really what the difference was in the game. And Billy Atkins, I thought, played pretty well, all things considered. But yeah, that JMU defense was pretty stout. And then, of course, after the game, a couple of those guys decided to enter the portal too. But hey, they helped JMU get their first ever bowl win. They've been to bowl game their first 2 years in the FBS. Last year, they were devastated with everyone leaving and following Cignetti to Indiana. So it was kind of cool to see them this year get back to a bowl game and get that first win.
All right, moving on to the Art of Sport LA Bowl, UNLV Rebels versus California Golden Bears. This one was a Wednesday night game. Why don't you take it away, Justice?
Yeah, it was. There wasn't a whole lot of offense. CJ Harris got the start for Cal. If that name sounds familiar, he was battling Parker Navarro at Ohio for that starting quarterback job all spring, and then transferred in the spring portal window to Cal. He was actually a third string quarterback, but Mendoza's in the portal, and Chandler Rogers was supposedly injured, that was a weird situation because Rogers, they said he had a knee injury. He showed him on the sideline several times. He's suited up. He doesn't have a knee brace on. He looks like he's ready to go in. He's riding a bike, trying to stay warm, but he never gets in the game. But one thing that was pretty cool in the game was UNLV ran a fake punt, and that was
slick.
It was cool. It was a sweet play, but man, that was an ugly pass. Like it was like a granny shovel, or it was like that Tim Tebow pop pass kind of sort of thing, but he underhand shoveled it over top of the line to the guy on that fake punt. It worked. That was a great play. UNL defense played phenomenal in the game. CJ Harris later on got a concussion. And he did not return. And again, they did not put in Chandler Rogers. They put in a true freshman, EJ Kamanong, and he looked about as what you would expect. He was 6 for 19, 57 yards. Basically, when he came in the game was over. He could not move the Cal offense at all. So again, the whole Chandler Rogers thing just really struck me as weird because he looked like he was ready, and they never gave him that shot. So not really sure what was going on there, but UNLV gets the win against the Power 4 opponent. And I want to say that was their third win.
I think third.
Yeah, their third win on the year. Definitely the most wins over a P4 for a G5. I think they had a chance for a fourth. They lost in overtime earlier in the year to Syracuse. But UNLV gets the win, and at that point, the G5 was 2-0 and undefeated against the P4. So a great way for those seniors to go out for UNLV. Ricky White didn't play, but Jackson Woodard played. Hajj Malik Williams played. So good to see those guys go out with a W.
All right. Well, let's go over to the RNL Cares New Orleans Bowl. We've got Georgia Southern Eagles and Sam Houston Bearcats. This was on Thursday night.
Yeah. I mean, Sam Houston defense was just as we went to our preview. The Sam Houston defense just played once again. Played phenomenal. The Georgia Southern offense couldn't. They never really seemed to get on track, at all. I mean, they would score, but I don't know, like the game never really felt out of hand, if you will, to me, like that. So the Sam Houston wasn't going to win the game. JC French, I think, threw 4 interceptions. My player of the week, Jalen Jimerson, had 2 of them. One of them was a pick 6. French did not play well at all. His favorite target was Josh Dallas. Josh Dallas, he played all right, but he had a fumble that they lost. He was going down towards the goal line and fumbled. I think it was on a kick return, a punt return. He muffed the punt. But yeah, it's like every time like you thought maybe Georgia Southern would get some kind of momentum going, Sam Houston would end up turning the ball over, whether it was that fumble or one of the 4 interceptions thrown by JC French. Sam Houston had a lot of guys in the portal, but most of those guys played, and they played well. Especially on the defensive side. Caleb Weaver, Isaiah Cash, both have phenomenal games in addition to Jalen Jimerson. And the one thing that did surprise me, I guess, if there was a surprise, is how well Georgia Southern kind of stopped the run. Sam Houston's it likes to run the ball, and they were stymied for the most part all night by that Georgia Southern defense in terms of running the ball. It's really the turnovers is kind of what really dictated this game and killed any momentum Georgia Southern had. Sam Houston goes on to win the game 31-26, but like I said, it never really felt like it was that close in terms of when you watch the game.
Right. Now let's go over to the staff DNA Cure Bowl, Ohio Bobcats versus Jacksonville State Gamecocks. This is Friday Friday afternoon.
Yeah, man. Ohio and Parker Navarro kicked butt in that first half. Like it wasn't much of a game at halftime. It was 27-7 at halftime. The Jacksonville State played much better in the second half. That Ohio defense played phenomenal in the first half. They held Trey Stewart and Tyler Huff in check pretty much the whole game in terms of rushing the ball. Jacksonville State had to in the second half had to make adjustments and go to the passing game. I guess if there was a turning point, there was a point in the game when there was a little bit of a melee, a scrum, if you will, and linebacker Shea Taylor for Ohio got ejected. And that kind of, I don't know, seemed to shift momentum a little bit, if you will, towards Jacksonville State. You know, Ohio was able to hold on and win. They only scored 3 points after halftime. They got outscored 20-3 in the second half, but ultimately they were able to hold on. Cam Vaughn and Tyler Huff had big games through the air for Jacksonville State. I was a little bit surprised, but I guess I shouldn't have been. I thought the Jacksonville State defense would have been able to hold Parker Navarro, Anthony Tyus in check a little better than they did. Both of them went over 100 yards rushing. Like you said earlier, Coleman Owen had over 140 through the air. But yeah, the story of this game was, I guess, really that first half, strong first half by Ohio to give them the 27-7 lead heading into halftime, and they end up winning the game 30-27. For I don't know, it's kind of a magical season for Ohio, right? They were, you know, they weren't a favorite to win the MAC. They win the MAC championship game. They go to a bowl game, win that. Pretty special season for the Bobcats. Jacksonville State had a great season too, and this was I didn't realize this until this game. That the morning of this game, I sent Luke a text and said, "Hey, we got our wish, but we didn't realize it. Like we had, you know, this was like a G5 playoff game, if you will. You had the champions of the MAC versus the champions of Conference USA, and if Marshall hadn't ruined it, we would have got the other way too. We would have gotten the champions of the Sun Belt versus the champions of the American, which is something we talked about several times this offseason. We'd like to see happen, and it was supposed to happen this year, but it didn't end up happening with Marshall pulling out of the bowl game. But yeah, so it's kind of, I hope this is something like we see as part of the norm, right? Kind of this, you know, the champions of the G5 conferences squaring off in a bowl game. That was pretty cool.
All right. Well, let's get over to the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. Tulane Green Wave versus Florida Gators. This was Friday afternoon. It was a close game going into the half, 6-0 in favor of the Gators. Ty Thompson just couldn't get anything going. He was 11 of 29 for 125 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Mekhi Hughes failed to break 30 yards rushing. Tulane was able to avoid the shutout as they scored on their last possession. Florida wins 33-8. Not a lot to talk about in this game, so this one can be like our quick hitter of everything. Yeah. But the highlight that I do want to talk about of this game had to have been Mario Williams, 6 receptions for 91 yards, and that aforementioned touchdown. His 91 yards receiving him pushed him over 1,000-yard threshold for the year. He ends the season with 1,031 yards receiving. Congratulations, Mario.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I guess I didn't get to watch a lot of this game. What I did get to watch, the takeaways is, that Tulane defense played really well in the first half. They intercepted DJ Lagway twice. Played really strong in that first half, and man, Ty Thompson just is not good. Not good. It's he was a high recruit, never got on the field at Oregon, comes to Tulane, high expectations, does not win the starting job there, and he's in the portal, and this was kind of his audition, but he did not look good. So, I don't know, where's he gonna go? To FCS? I mean, he looked pretty bad in this game. I don't. Someone might give him another shot. I don't know, but the audition did not go very well for Mr. Ty Thompson.
It did not. Let's move over to the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Coastal Carolina, Chanticleers, UTSA Roadrunners happened earlier today. This morning for me, 11 or 10 a.m. on my time.
Yeah, I got to watch most of this game today. It was, all UTSA. Coastal Carolina, they lost a lot in the portal. They were starting third string, fourth string Tad Hudson, former UNC quarterback at one point. He never started for them, but that's where he was recruited to. And I don't know, he didn't look terrible, but like they just could not get anything going. It was 21-0 at halftime. Owen McCown.
That's at some point in the first half. He only had like 22 yards passing. Like, I don't know. It was rough.
Yeah, it was rough the whole game. I mean, they got some garbage points. They scored all 15 points in the fourth quarter. They tried to run the ball. They could not get the running game going. Braden Bennett, 22 carries for 55 yards, 2.5 average. They just couldn't get anything going on offense. And then defensively, they just, they didn't look good. Owen McCown had a touchdown run, a 22-yard touchdown run, and then, he passed all over him. Eddie Lee Marburger got in the game towards the end. Yeah, I mean, UTSA, I think we talked about this in our preview last week. It was two teams headed in opposite directions, and that's kind of the way the game went. UTSA finished strong in the second half, got the win. The one thing I didn't know until today was UTSA had not won a road game all year. So this was their first road win. And it truly was a true road win because it wasn't like they were on a neutral field. They were playing on Coastal Carolina's home field, and Coastal, just couldn't get it done. I'm going
to tell you, as a former NCAA athlete, nothing like it's cool. It'd be cool to I didn't play football, so it'd be cool to go to a bowl game. But if I'm Coastal Carolina, like how pissed am I? Like I ain't even gonna go anywhere cool. I just had another home game. Like I gotta go out on my home field cool. I gotta be in my routine's not broken up. But the whole great part of going to a bowl game is I get to go somewhere else that's cool, typically warmer, whatever it happens to be. I get to experience something, and I did not get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only thing I think it's good for is the fans, right? In the sense that you would think you should draw a lot of your fans at your home stadium. That's really the only, I don't know, quasi benefit. I don't really remember looking at the field too much today in terms of paying attention to how full were the stands. I don't know what the attendance was. I know when ODU played there, I guess it's been 3 years ago now. I want to say we had 4,000 fans there, which was, a pretty 4,000 to 5,000, which is a pretty strong amount for a bowl game. So I'm interested to see the Coastal Carolina come close to that same number, considering it's quote really a home game for them. But I haven't seen an official attendance record for the game. But yeah, all UTSA, not much positive came out of the game for Coastal Carolina.
UTSA will be one of my favorites next year. They'll be up there. All right, moving on to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Northern Illinois Huskies versus the Fresno State Bulldogs. This was a matchup of the dogs. You got Huskies, you got Bulldogs. This game was quite the rock fight.
It was a tale of two halves.
It sure was. You had NIU, you had Holst as the quarterback. You had Fresno State switching quarterbacks, but then ultimately kind of leaning more on Wood as the game went on. Donaldson for Fresno State, true freshman, 82 yards on the ground, a touchdown. Turns out, he got tripped up there at the end of the fourth quarter. He would have gone in for a touchdown, which then has them settle for a field goal to go up by 3 to pretty much win the game.
They missed the field goal. They
missed the field. There were several missed field goals.
I mean, he missed 3, I want to say, at least.
that might have been Fresno State's kicker.
Yeah, Fresno State's kicker. Yeah, he was 0 for 3 on field goals.
Yeah. It was not great. NIU missed field goals. I'm going to try to pull up the box score real quick.
Yeah, it looks like NIU missed 1 field goal.
Okay. So it was just kind of like every time there was a chance for someone to win it, like they didn't want to win it, and then it goes to overtime, and then you get a Fresno State touchdown, then you get NIU touchdown, and then you get NIU comes out. They come right back from commercial break. It's a touchdown first play, then a pretty slick 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
That was a pretty slick play that they had there. And I don't know, they win. Northern Illinois pulls it out 28-20 in double overtime. It like you said, it was a tale of two halves. Like Fresno State, they were up 13-3, but it didn't feel like anybody was like dominating, but it did feel like Fresno State kind of had control of things.
Yeah.
But then Northern Illinois, Northern Illinois' defense kind of stepped up a little bit more. But Fresno State's defense, I think it was the second quarter, there was like 4th and goal on like the 1 yard line, or 2 yard line.
They had 11
stopped them.
11-minute drive, an 85-yard 11-minute drive, and stopped them on 4th and goal.
So like Fresno State had a lot of momentum there, but they just like never could pull away. You let good teams hang around, they're gonna get a W. So like
the one thing that surprised me the most was how well the Fresno State defense played. I expected that Gavin Williams and Telly Johnson Jr. were going to run all over Fresno State, given the losses that they had through the portal, and that didn't happen. They kind of held those guys pretty much in check, which shocked me, to be frank.
And then I guess that does it for the bowl games that ended today.
Yeah, and then we got one tomorrow that we already previewed, the Hawaii Bowl.
I guess the only thing that's different that from
Nick
last
Nash
week when we previewed,
Nick Nash isn't playing.
Yeah, Nick Nash will not play. So let's get into our G5 bowl game previews, and let's get it started first with the Game Above Sports Bowl. We've got Pittsburgh Panthers versus Toledo Rockets in Detroit, Michigan, Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, a G5 versus P4 matchup. Again, we're a G5 podcast. I do my best to get some information on these P4s, but I don't have any information on Pittsburgh. But then not heard anything back to this point from Toledo. So I don't really have much information there. So we'll skip that part. And who are some Pittsburgh Panthers that we need to know?
They don't really have a ton of losses in the portal. I feel like most of the players, like their impact players, at least they're not in the portal anyway. And I think you can kind of say the same for the most part for Toledo as well. So when Pittsburgh has the ball, you're looking at quarterback Eli Holstein, running back Desmond Reed. Desmond Reed kind of does it all for them, right? I feel like he's the focal point of their offense. Great running back, great running the ball. Also catches out of the backfield. So he's kind of a dual threat running back. Their top receivers, Kanata Mumfield, Kenny Anderson, and then they also like tight end Gavin Bartholomew. Toledo, when Pittsburgh has the ball, Toledo, you're looking at on the defensive side, they're kind of led by their safeties. They have a trio of outstanding safeties, and Maxon Hook, Braden Alls, friend of the show, Braden Alls, and Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Those three guys kind of lead the way. They're great tacklers. They're ball hawks. They're kind of the leaders of that Toledo Rocket defense. Linebackers, their leading linebackers, Daniel Bolden, And then if you're looking for guys that can kind of create that pressure on the Panther offense, you're looking at defensive tackle Kevon Butler and defensive end DeAndre Rajan. When Toledo has the ball, you're looking at quarterback Tucker Gleason, who I expect to start. But if they fall behind, I wouldn't shock me to see Tucker Gleason get benched in favor of John Allen Richter. We saw that happen in the regular season in games where they had to pass the ball more. You saw Tucker Gleason get benched in favor of John Allen Richter. Running backs, kind of a very much a committee approach for the Rockets. You got Connor Wallendak and Jaquez Stewart. Wallendak more kind of between the tackles. Stewart more of the that lightning in a bottle type back, if you will. And then they have some great receivers and a great tight end there at Toledo, and Jerwan Newton and Junior Vandeross at receiver, and then Anthony Torres at tight end. It's like all Torres does is catch touchdowns. So look for him to have, when they get in the red zone, look for them to throw it to Anthony Torres. The Panthers on defense are led by safety Donovan McMillan. He's their leading tackler, and then followed by linebackers Kyle Luis and Rasheem Biles. In terms of the guy getting pressure on opposing offenses, that's defensive lineman Jimmy Scott. The spread on this game is Pitt -7 with an over-under of 49.5. Much as it pains me to say this, I like Pitt. Toledo did not play well, towards the end of the season. I didn't feel like, and I don't know. I think Pitt, with Holstein and Reed and all their offensive pieces still there and playing in this game, I think it's gonna be a little bit much. I don't think the Toledo offense is gonna be able to keep pace in this game, unfortunately. Do you have any thoughts? Yeah.
No, I mean, it'll be the Reed and Pitt's defense.
Desmond Reed show.
It'll be the Desmond Reed show. Pitt's defense, not too bad. I'm trying to remember that game. Was it against Syracuse? So they had like 4 interceptions by like halftime. So defense plays pretty well. And Tucker Gleason will put the ball in danger from time to time. So,
yep.
All right. Let's move over to the 68 Ventures Bowl. Arkansas State Red Wolves versus Bowling Green Falcons in Mobile, Alabama, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Opt-outs, injuries, portal, news, Arkansas State injury, defensive lineman Nate Marty. He did not play in their final game. He's been beat up throughout the year. I don't know if he will be able to go or not. Opt-outs, portal, any guys that are in the portal, they're not going to play. That's the rule. You're in the portal, you're not playing. So I didn't bother going through to figure out all the people in the portal because then I'd probably just spend a lot of my day doing that. I don't
know that it was anybody major for them. No, I mean, when I went through the players, no, there wasn't anybody like I was like, oh, this guy is not playing because he's in the portal. I don't think there's any. I'm sure there's losses, but I don't know that there's any like what I would consider significant losses in the portal for Arkansas State.
And then from Bowling Green,
Dante Joyner, cornerback. Dante Joyner, or is he? I think he's a defensive back. I don't know if he's a corner or safety, but that one could hurt, I guess.
Bowling Green wise, Terrion Stewart is probably the biggest one in terms of offense. I don't believe he will play because he is committed elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't get anything from Bowling Green, but I'm with you. I don't expect any Bowling Green guys in the portal to play.
So, kick it over to you, Justice. What are some Arkansas State Red Wolves that we need to know about?
So Arkansas State has the ball. Quarterback will be Jalen Rayner. He won't have to look over his shoulder for Timmy McClain because Timmy McClain's in the portal, so he will not be playing. Jalen Rayner, dual threat. Didn't really have the kind of year I think people were expecting, especially rushing the ball. But he had a good year. He started the year off pretty rough. He seemed to do okay once he got into conference play. Running backs, it's kind of a committee between Zach Wallace and Jacquez Cross. That doesn't mean like these aren't good running backs, because they are. Either one of these guys could have a huge game. We've seen it happen in the past. They kind of will take a hot hand approach. They got quality receivers too. Wide receiver Corey Rucker, the leading receiver for Arkansas State, definitely the favorite target of Jalen Rayner, and also wide receiver Courtney Jackson. When Bowling Green is on defense, they do lose their top defensive player, linebacker Joseph Sipp Jr. He is in the portal, so he will not be playing. So look for linebacker Brock Horn to have a big game, as well as safety C.J. Brown. Up front, they're led by defensive tackle Anthony Hawkins, one of the best defensive tackles in the G5, and cornerback Jordan Oladokin, who I believe declared for the NFL draft, but I also believe he said that he's going to play in this game. When Bowling Green has the ball on offense, the quarterback's Connor Bazelak, as Luke mentioned earlier. Running back Tyrion Stewart's in the portal, already committed elsewhere. Do not expect him to play. I would expect Jason Patterson to kind of get the start at running back for the Falcons. And the focal point, I expect this to be a focal point of their offense, at least until he gets the record, and that's tight end Harold Fannin Jr. He has said he will play in this game. I think, I don't know what, it's 100 and some yards he needs to break the tight end record for a single season. My personal expectation is they're going to do everything in their power to get him those yards. Now, once he gets those yards, I fully expect him to go sit on the bench, because I expect that he will likely to be declaring for the NFL draft. But I do expect Harold Fannin Jr. for Bowling Green to do everything in their power to get him that tight end record.
He might set earlier than anticipated, because I think that was the number that he needed heading into the conference championship game, and he got close. I think he only needs like 17 more yards or 13 more yards, something like that. So it might be like a couple plays and then we're done.
And then we're done. When Arkansas State is on defense, they're led by linebacker Marvin Ham and safeties Justin Parks and Trevion Thomas. As I mentioned, Dante Joyner will not play. He's in the portal. He's already committed elsewhere. He is their top defensive back, so they will miss Dante Joyner. And then if they're looking for pass rush, that's defensive end Brian Whitehead. The current spread on this game kind of surprises me. It's Bowling Green minus 7.5. And if it's me, I'm probably leaning Arkansas State, just because I think the losses are more significant for Bowling Green, especially Tyrion Stewart.
I just think that Bowling Green defense is going to be ready. Yeah. I just like that defense more than Jalen Rayner was up and down. That whole offense kind of just was like this roller coaster ride, and quarter to quarter, half to half, week to week was just kind of not consistent. So I think Bowling Green, honestly, they could be like Bowling Green's defense gets an interception or return. That might be all they really need in this one. So
I don't outside of Harold Fannin Jr. doing what he needs to do, I don't have a lot of expectations for the Bowling Green offense, especially with Tyrion Stewart. I don't know. I think, to me, that's a high number. I'm not surprised Bowling Green would win, but for them to win, I don't know they win by more than a touchdown, which is what the spread is now. It's -7.5 for Bowling Green.
All right. Let's move over to the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Let's try that again. The Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, Oklahoma Sooners versus Navy Midshipmen in Fort Worth, Texas. Friday, noon Eastern on ESPN, another G5 versus P4 matchup. You got Navy coming off their big Army win a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember. All the days are kind of smashing together now. But injury, opt-outs, portal news. Oklahoma, injury-wise, wide receiver Deion Burks dealt with an injury all season, but he's trending in the right direction to play. When it comes to opt-out and portal guys, All-American linebacker Danny Sutzman, he will be out. Billy Bowman, he's been their starting safety for the last 3 seasons. He will be out. But defensive lineman Ethan Downs, he may play. He was once thought to be opting out, but he stuck around. So there's a chance that he actually plays in this game. No portal guys will play, so that means like your Jackson Arnold wide receiver room is going to be bare. No Nick Anderson, Andrel Anthony, Jaleel Farouk, Brennan Thompson, J.J. Hester,
Jaquez Petaway.
Yeah, Jaquez Petaway goes to ECU. Nick Anderson, Anthony Farouk, those names have pretty much been out most of the season, if not the whole season. But Hester and Thompson were starters, but they've since transferred. So they will be down wide receivers. Navy, they should be at full strength. So, Justice, what are some Oklahoma Sooners that we need to know about?
I guess also this will be last time Joe John Finley will call plays for OU as they bring in a new offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, coming over from Washington State as the new OC for Oklahoma. So no Jackson Arnold. That means Michael Hawkins will get to start at quarterback. He saw some time this season already, got some starts. He's a dual threat guy. He's a runner. He can throw it as well. Running back, it's gonna be interesting to see kind of what happens here at running back, because towards the end of the year it seemed like running back Xavier Robinson was kind of the best running back of that group. So it'd be interesting to kind of see if is he the guy that kind of gets the lion's share of the carries, if you will, or if they go back to Javonte Barnes. As you mentioned, wide receivers kind of a crapshoot. Hopefully they get Deion Burks back. Jacob Jordan is probably their leading, other than Brooks, their leading receiver that is eligible or will play in this game. I think they only have like 3 maybe scholarship receivers still on the roster at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see. They could really definitely use Deion Brooks. That Navy defense, pretty good defense, led by linebackers Colin Ramos and Kyle Jacob. Both of those guys, they're leading tacklers, great in run support and creating pressure too. The defensive line, as far as creating pressure, Luke Pierce, and then nose guard Landon Robinson. Landon Robinson coming off that phenomenal game against Army. He led them in tackles, and then he had that awesome play on special teams as well. And Navy's not too bad defending the pass either, with Rayon Lane, the second safety, and one of the best corners in the G5, and Deshaun Peel. So this is going to be an interesting game, just in terms of what Oklahoma has. I feel like if Oklahoma's at full strength, this game's probably not that great of a game. But I feel like Navy's going to want to prove something. Oklahoma's not at full strength. So we kind of interested to see how it plays out. When Navy has the ball, they're led by quarterback Blake Horvath, coming off a phenomenal season through the air and running the ball. when they're running the ball, look for Alex Texa. He's kind of that fullback. He's the guy running the fullback dives. And then wide receiver / slot back Eli Heidenreich. He's kind of the explosive play guy. He doesn't get a lot of touches, but man, when he does a lot when he does get touches. He's the guy that kind of leads the explosive plays for Navy. And if you haven't watched Navy, that's one thing I think that their new OC Drew Cronick brought to this offense was kind of that explosive play ability. We saw that on display their last game against Army. You saw it early in the year when they had that shootout against Memphis. And so that's one thing like you might not be used to seeing from Navy is that explosive plays, particularly in the passing game. And that's going to be Eli Heidenreich. When Oklahoma's on defense, as you mentioned, they losing two big defenders there, and Bowman and Danny Stutzman. So look for linebacker Kip Lewis to step up, possibly also a linebacker Jaron Canuck. And then safety, look at Robert Spears Jennings, kind of lead the defensive backs there. And then when they're trying to get pressure, create some havoc up front, that's going to be edge R. Mason Thomas. He's their leading sack guy that'll be playing in this game. Currently, the spreads only Oklahoma -3. So with an over/under of 43.5. I don't know, that spread feels kind of about right. If I was to, I guess, put anything on it, I'd probably take Navy in the points, I guess, just because I just don't know how motivated Oklahoma's going to be, and they're missing a lot of key guys.
I kind of just lean towards Oklahoma just because of how the service academies in general have faced, mainly against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's different. They're in the playoffs and whatnot, but just kind of like how Navy and Army struggled against those lines. And again, they're in the playoffs. Like, it makes sense. But, like, at this point, it's like, does Oklahoma's defensive line win it? And I think that's probably where it happens is the trenches. Because that's, when you think about these service academies, like, hey, they have to be a certain height and weight when they're doing their service. So it's like, okay, just even Oklahoma's second string, how much of them are just like able to move that line? I don't know, but like that's my question, and that's what it's going to come down to is offensive defensive line.
And I mean, for me, like, I guess the reason why I lean Navy is bowl games are just weird beasts because some teams clearly don't come out very motivated, right? And
they don't want to be there. They're pissed,
right? And like to me, like I would never question that about a military academy, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force. I think that's one thing you don't need to you don't ever have to question about or have a question about. And so for that reason, it just kind of I don't know has me leaning Navy. Just because
I hear you. Oklahoma 6-6, they're pretty pissed. I think hey, they probably want to end their season on a high note. Granted, they beat Texas, right? Who
No, they beat Alabama. They beat Texas.
They beat Alabama. Beat Alabama there in the last. So like that was a good, but like then coming with a loss, I don't know. I think they'll play. Anyways, let's move over to our Wasabi Fenway Bowl, Yukon Huskies versus North Carolina Tar Heels in Boston, Massachusetts, Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. Another G5 versus P4 matchup. Injuries, opt-outs, portal, Yukon injuries, defensive tackle, Del Monte Gordini, broken foot. He's not going to play, more than likely. Opt-outs, transfers, portal guys are allowed to play. However, Darrell Robinson, he will not be playing. He's already committed. I'm trying to remember where he transferred to.
It's a P4. I think it's Auburn. Yeah, I think it was Auburn.
Something like that. So portal guys are allowed to play, but yeah, Darrell Robinson will not be playing. North Carolina, injuries. K'Wan Rucker will not be playing. Opt-outs, portal guys. All portal guys are allowed to play for North Carolina. However, DT Javari, defensive tackle Javari Ritzy will not be playing. He will opt out in this one. Also, it sounds like there might be another person, but do not know who that might be at this point.
When look for some UConn Huskies to know, when the Huskies are on offense, quarterback Joe Fangano, he's been the cream of the crop in terms of quarterback play. He's outplayed Nick Evers all season long, so expect Fagnano to get the start. As you mentioned, Darrell Robinson's not playing, but they run a committee. They have a committee approach there for the running backs, and they have, they have a stable of good running backs. Look for Cam Edwards and Victor Rosa to kind of lead that running room. Wide receiver Skylar Bell is their leading receiver. He is in the transfer portal. I don't know. I'd put him playing like 50-50. But they also have TJ Sheffield, who's had some phenomenal games of recent. So that TJ Sheffield could be the leading receiver for the Huskies. On defense, the Tar Heels are led by safety Antavius Lane. He was their number one guy in terms of tackles, and then followed by linebacker Power Eccles. Their other starting linebacker, Amari Campbell, is in the portal. Don't see him playing at all. If you're looking for the guys to kind of create havoc, get after Joe Fagnano. That's defensive lineman Bo Atkinson. When North Carolina has the ball, Jacoby Criswell, I'm assuming, is going to be the starting quarterback. Connor Harrell is in the portal. Don't expect to see him in this game. But their offense kind of revolves around their stud running back, Omari and Hampton. I don't know. I'm mildly surprised that he hasn't declared for the NFL draft and said he's going to sit this game out. But maybe he's not going to go to the draft. I don't know. Maybe someone's going to offer up a buttload of money. He's going to stay in college football for his final season. Their leading receiver is J.J. Jones for the Tar Heels. When UConn is on defense, they're led by linebacker Jaden McDonald, who I think in the last game of the year had one of the last games had that monster game where he had 20-plus tackles. Defensive lineman Price Yates for UConn was in the portal, but he has announced he's coming back to UConn next year. So I'm assuming he will play in this game. And that's huge for UConn, one of their best defensive linemen. And then if you're looking at their defensive backs, probably the best one is safety Malik Dixon Williams. The current spread in this game is UNC -3 with an over under of 52.5. I don't know. That seems about right, I guess. Again, to me, this game's going to come down to who's more motivated, and I don't know. I guess I would give a slight edge to UConn there. North Carolina's got a lot of change coming their way, new head coach and such. UConn's got a little more stability, so I guess I would. I don't know. My gut is that UConn is the more motivated team to win this game. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Luke?
I would say they're the more motivated. I think it'll be Hampton's show. If he's able to go, I think he'll impose his will. Criswell, I think, can do enough. I think North Carolina pulls this one out. I'm kind of surprised that there's not a 3.5 up. It's just a straight 3. But I might go under in the total at 52.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if Hampton plays the entire game, I would give the nod to UNC.
That's why. I would just say he's a difference maker.
I'm just kind of surprised. I'm surprised that we haven't heard him declare for the NFL draft yet, and then ultimately sit out this game. But hey, there's still time. I guess it could still happen. But stay tuned.
All right, let's move over to the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. Louisiana Raging Cajuns versus TCU Horned Frogs in Albuquerque, New Mexico on Saturday, 2:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Another G5 versus P4 matchup. Injuries, opt-outs, portal news. Louisiana injury. Chandler Fields, quarterback. He's going to be out. Quarterback one before he was in. So I guess backup. Ben Woldridge, quarterback. He was injured. Chandler Fields came in to relieve him. He just got injured a couple weeks ago. Chandler Fields is going to be out, but Ben Woldridge is making strides to get back, and I think there's a good shot that we see him. He might be back for this game, which will be huge for Louisiana. No news on any opt-outs or portal guys. TCU, again, still trying to work on getting contacts in the P4, which is not my main priority at this point, but I don't have any TCU news. So, Justice, what's some Raging Cajuns that we need to know about?
Like you said, Ben Woldridge, if he can play in this game and be effective, that's huge for Louisiana.
Absolutely.
I think the latest word is he is probable, which is very positive. If Woldridge can't go, it goes to, I believe, freshman Daniel Beal. He played in relief of Chandler Fields in the Sun Belt Championship game, and as you might expect, did not look good. This game's really, for Louisiana to have a chance in this game, Ben Woldridge's got to play, and he's got to be effective. Running the ball, they use a committee approach. Don't expect to see Draylen Washington. He's in the portal. I don't expect him to play. But their other two running backs, Bill Davis and Zylan Perry, they're top two runners for the year. You'll kind of see those guys take kind of a hot hand approach, if you will. Both of them will get share the load there for the Raging Cajuns. I believe where the Cajuns are going to be hurt, with or without Woldridge, is wide receiver and tight end. Their leading receiver, Lance Lahindry, will play. But I don't expect that tight end Terrence Carter, who was in the portal, and I believe he's already committed. I don't expect
Texas
him to play.
Tech?
I think it was Texas Tech. And the same with wide receiver Harvey Broussard. He was in the portal too. So I don't expect either of those to play. And that's going to be a big loss for the Raging Cajuns, regardless of who the quarterback's going to be. If you're looking at TCU on defense, they're led by linebacker Johnny Hodges, safety Bud Clark, and then their top pass rusher is edge Devin Deal. When TCU is on offense, they're led by quarterback Josh Hoover. Running back, their top running back, second half of the season is a wide receiver that they put at running back because the running backs weren't very effective, and that's Sevion Williams. So look for him to carry the ball, also catch the ball out of the backfield. And they have a plethora of receivers led by wide receiver, tight end hybrid Jack Beck and Eric McAllister. When Louisiana is on defense, they're led by linebacker Casey Osai. He's their leading tackler. And they got two really, really good safeties there for Louisiana, and Tyrone Lewis Jr. and Tyree Skipper. They're both ball hawks. I think they had each of them had 4 or 5 interceptions apiece on the year. So we'll see if they can intercept Josh Hoover. And if you're looking for the guys that are going to get pressure on Josh Hoover, that's edge Cam Whitfield and defensive lineman Jordan Lawson. The current line is TCU minus 13 with an over-under of 57.5. And give me TCU. I think I mean, if Ben Wooldridge doesn't play, it's easily TCU, right? And the question is how effective Wooldridge can be, and then he's losing two of his top three weapons in the receiving game, and Terrence Carter and Harvey Broussard. And so, I just don't.
Yeah, it's just going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard with those receiving options, and then Josh Hoover can. Like, even if Josh Hoover didn't have wide receiver options, I think he can do enough with his legs.
And, Savion Williams is, he's come on strong here at the end of the year. Yeah,
absolutely.
So give me TCU. As much as it pains me to say that, even if Wooldridge starts, I still like TCU in this game.
It's been a great season by the Raging Cajuns. Another season or record, kind of like Ohio, that I did not see coming this year.
Good I mean, the injuries just kind of caught up to him at the end there with losing Wooldridge near the end of the year, and then losing Fields to the Sun Belt Championship game. Great season for the Raging Cajuns.
All right. Moving on to the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, the one that we're all excited for, Snoop Dogg.
Gin and juice.
Miami of Ohio Redhawks versus Colorado State Rams in Tucson, Arizona at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on the CW network. Like, the only one that's like not on ESPN. It's the CW network. So if you're trying to find that one. Injuries, opt-out portal news, Miami. Injuries, not many that to my knowledge, that they'll have guys missing due to injury. If there are any guys in the portal, they will not be playing. Colorado State injuries, they're going to be at full strength, minus Torrey Horton. He's still out with that knee injury. Again, opt-outs, portal guys, if they are in the portal, they will not play. So again, portal guys, Colorado State, Miami will not play.
And for both of these teams, where that's going to hurt is the receivers. That's where I think they've lost. Both teams have lost guys in the portal. When Miami has the ball, you're looking at quarterback Brett Gabbert, and running back Keon Mosey. Mosey does his work, but they don't let him get the touchdowns, man.
They sure don't. Maybe today, maybe this game they will.
Maybe this game they'll let Keon get a. He
only had like one. He only had like one rushing touchdown this year or something. Maybe even zero. It was amazing.
I would expect Brett Gabbert's favorite target's going to be Cade McDonald, because the other two receivers are gone. They were in the portal. They're gone. And
I would say Virgil. I don't know what Cade McDonald's over under is going to be set at if you can do player props, but like, I feel pretty good that Cade McDonald will get like double digit targets and I don't know, at least 70, 80 yards receiving.
When Colorado State's on defense, they have some losses on defense too. In addition to, I mentioned, receiver, they lost their top defensive player in Boom Jock, who's in the portal. But look for linebacker Chase Wilson to step up, as well as safeties Henry Blackburn and Jack Howell. If you're looking for guys to get pressure on Gabbert, it's going to be defensive lineman Gabe Kershke. When Colorado State is on offense, for the most part this year, we've seen them want to, run the ball. And they do that with Avery Morrow and Justin Marshall, kind of a 1-2 punch. Their quarterback, Braden Fowler Nicolosi, can also throw it around. We saw him have a big game the last week of the year throwing the ball. But they do lose their top two receivers. So I would expect the wide receivers you need to know are Armani Winfield and then true freshman Jordan Ross. Jordan Ross kind of came on in that last game of the year. They lost Caleb Good and Jamari Person to the portal. When Miami is on defense, they're led by linebackers Matt Salopek and Ty Wise. They They did have one big defensive loss, which in this game might not. I mean, I guess it depends on what Colorado State's going to do, but they're probably their biggest loss is cornerback Rayon Strader. He's all conference cornerback for them. He was a freshman All-American last year. That's going to be a big loss for the Red Hawk defense. If you're looking for the guy to get pressure on the Rams up front, that's defensive end Brian Ugwu. To me, I guess, the spread of this game, Miami, Ohio -2.5, over under 40.5. And I think the key to this game is how that Miami, Ohio defense plays, right? They didn't play very good in the first half of the year. They played phenomenal the second half of the year. But then in the MAC championship game against Ohio, they were back. They didn't show up. And so if that defense shows up, I expect Miami to win. But if not, then I would lean Colorado State. I think Colorado State, can beat you in a variety of ways. So it'll be interesting to see if that loss of Rayon Strader hurts them. If they're able to shut down the run game and then force Braden Fowler Nicolosi to try to win with his arm, which he can do. We saw him do that the last week of the regular season. I don't know.
I'm really excited for this game because this game, for the most part, all the guys are healthy. You've got this narrative of Gabbert. He comes back from that broken leg. This will be it for him, I believe.
Yes.
So you'd think Miami's going to come out ready to go. Colorado State, not the season that they wanted. You'd figure they're going to be ready to roll. I think there's going to be motivation on both ends. The over-under is 40.5, which based on how these defensive played this year, I feel like that's a really low number. So I feel like I would go, if I'm going to bet anything, I would just bet the over on that. But this game is one of those ones that I'm excited to watch. And because on the CW network, those games seem to get a little wacky. I don't know what it is about the CW, but those games are wacky. So I'm expecting just a crazy game in this one. And I think I'm going to go with Colorado State.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be one of the better bowl games in terms of competitiveness, and so definitely something that I'm looking forward to. I think I'm a little surprised that Miami is the favorite in the game, but it's only a field goal. I'm going to lean Miami and hope that the defense plays like they did in the second half, not like they did in the MAC championship game.
All right, let's move over to the Go Bowling Military Bowl. We've got East Carolina Pirates. Justice, that's your second team. You've got the North Carolina State Wolfpack in Annapolis, Maryland, Saturday, 5:45 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. We go back to ESPN. No CW here. Injuries, opt-outs, portal news. North Carolina State, I've got nothing. East Carolina, no injuries that I'm aware of. Opt-outs, portal guys. If you're in the portal, you will not play. So that means guys like Chase Sewell will not play. But Winston Wright is opting out because he is declared for the NFL draft, so he will not be there. So I'm trying to remember who so you got Smith as a wide receiver, and then there's the freshman. There's a freshman.
Yannick Smith is a freshman.
I expect them to have some killer game or a killer game. So, but who else are the guys that we need to know for East Carolina?
Yeah, so East Carolina is led by quarterback Caton Hauser. He didn't start the season as a starter. He kind of came on after Mike Houston got fired. Caton Hauser became the starter, and East Carolina, the rest is history. The interim coach got the job. They went on a winning streak, got bowl eligible, and Caton Hauser had a phenomenal rest of the year. Running back, they're led by Rajai Harris. Less than 1,000, just shy of 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns on the year. He's kind of their workhorse back. As you mentioned, they lose Chase Sewell and Winston Wright Jr. And you might think that's going to be a big deal, but I really don't think it is, because towards the end of the year, those two guys were hurt anyway. And so that you weren't seeing them a lot out there. You were seeing a lot of wide receiver Anthony Brown. He was their leading receiver for the year. And then true freshman Yannick Smith came on really strong at the end of the year as well. So I don't think the losses of Sewell and Wright are going to be as big as one might think, just from the simple fact that those two guys weren't really available at the end of the season anyway. North Carolina State on defense, they're led by linebacker Sean Brown, safety DK Kaufman, and then the guy getting pressure is defensive end Davin Van. When North Carolina State has the ball, probably their biggest loss is going to be wide receiver KC Concepcion. He's in the portal. I don't know if he's committed somewhere or not, but don't expect him to play. They're led by true freshman quarterback CJ Bailey. Running backs, they have Jordan Waters, and then their explosive play guy Hollywood Smothers. Throwing the ball, their leading receiver was tight end Justin Jolie. Their leading receiver, wide receiver Noah Rogers. Look for him to step up in the absence of KC Concepcion. East Carolina on defense is led by their pair of safeties Omar Rogers and true freshman Jamarly Riddle, who had a phenomenal season as a true freshman for the Pirates. They do lose their leading linebacker in Zakai Barker, who is in the portal. So look for Mike Edwards III to step up. Defensive line, they're led by defensive tackle Deontay Johnson, one of the best defensive tackles in the G5, and defensive lineman Elijah Morris. Those are the guys kind of getting it done up front in terms of getting pressure on the opposing offense. The current spread is NC State -6, over under a 58.5. This is kind of a rivalry game in a bowl game, and the funny thing is these guys are playing right now, and to end the season, and then they'll be playing against each other again to start the season in 2025. They play each other first game of the year, so this is a rivalry game, and so a lot of times I think you might question motivation. I don't question any motivation in this game. I feel like both of these teams are going to be up and pumped for this game, and it'll be maybe a little bit of a sneak peek of what to expect in week 1 of the 2025 season. If I had to lean a certain way, I think I might lean East Carolina in the points if they're getting 6 points. But I look for it to be, again, one of the better games, just because the proximity of these teams. They're pretty close to each other. Greenville's, I don't know, hour and a half from Raleigh, if that, and so it's kind of a little bit of a rivalry game. But both these teams are going to be up. I don't think you need to question the motivation here. Should be one of the better bowl games.
All right, well, let's move over to the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. We've got newcomer Louisiana Tech Bulldogs taking over for Marshall versus Army Black Knights in Shreveport, Louisiana at 9:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Injuries, opt-outs, portal news, Louisiana Tech injuries, Colby Fields, a linebacker, and left guard Bert Hale, I don't anticipate will play. Opt-outs, portal guys, no portal guys will play, but there will be 2 portal guys that should start. That'd be quarterback Jack Turner, and quarterback Cedric Woods. So I know I said no portal guys will play, but there should be two that do, and that's, again, quarterback Jack Turner and Cedric Woods. Army, no injuries to note. Opt-out portal guys. The big hit is Kanye Udo. He is transferred to, I think he's still open, maybe?
No, he's going to Arizona State.
Arizona State. Okay. So, yeah, that just happened. But, that'll be a big hit. But they do have some other guys. Obviously, Bryson Daly is the big guy to know in this one. But I'll let Justice cover that. And let's just start with Louisiana Tech first. Who are the Bulldogs that we need to know?
Quarterback Evan Bullock. I'm assuming he's getting the start in this game. I'm assuming Jack Turner's kind of going to serve as the backup. Louisiana Tech, they were 5-8 on the year. They got into the bowl game because Marshall pulled out. I think it's great for them to be able, to find an opponent for Army. I just don't know that Louisiana Tech is going to be a quality opponent. And Marshall wouldn't have been either. With, I think they lost 34 guys in the portal. But it sucks that we couldn't get the Sun Belt champion at full strength versus the American champion at full strength. Would have loved to see that game. But Louisiana Tech quarterback Evan Bullock, running back O'Miri Wiggins. What I'm not sure about is wide receiver True Edwards, whether he will play or not. He's declared for the NFL draft before this bowl announcement, before this late addition to the bowl game. So I'm not sure if True Edwards will play. If not, that'll be a loss for the Bulldogs. He's their leading receiver. Their next leading receivers, wide receiver Jimmy Holiday. Army on defense, led by linebackers Andon Thomas, Caleb Fortner. If you're looking for the guys in the defensive backfield, it's safety Max DiDomenico. And they have a pair of quality cornerbacks, both some of the best in the G5, and Donovan Platt and Jaden Mays. The guys causing havoc up front for Army on that defensive line. You got Elo Mendoza and Kyle Lewis. When Army has the ball, as Luke mentioned, there will be no Kanye Udo, but Bryson Daly's still there. He's been a monster on the ground. I believe 29 rushing touchdowns on the year. It looks like Hayden Reed will take over that spot vacated by Kanye Udo. They also have Noah Short, more of the the scat back, lightning in a bottle kind of back, if you will, whereas Hayden Reed's more that power guy or fullback. When Louisiana Tech is on defense, they're led by linebacker Zach Zemos and defensive lineman Jesse Evans. They do lose defensive tackle David Blay. It's a big loss for them, especially in a game against a team that's going to run the ball as much as Army. The current spread in this game is Army minus 16.5, an over/under of 43.5, and give me Army all day long. Coupled with the losses, the short notice, all those things, the portal losses for Louisiana Tech, especially David Blay. I think you got to give it to Army. Like I said earlier, you don't need to question motivation for these the military academies, and quite frankly, Army's got to be pissed off how the Commanders Cup went, the Navy game went, and I fully expect them to take it all out on the Bulldogs and get a big win to end the season for the Black Knights.
Not too often do I have this expectation of a player having 5 touchdowns in a game, but over under 43.5. Bryson Daly just could have 5 rushing touchdowns or 3 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing to Noah Short or something like that. I expect him to have a big game, and I don't know. I like that. I mean, they might score 43 just themselves, which is kind of weird to say from a service academy team in general. But I expect a big day from them. And that is going to do it for us tonight. So come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in the G5 Bowl games, as well as look forward to the next set of G5 Bowl games as we always bring you up to date on the latest news and happenings in the world of G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and review. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.